Hello, ladies, and welcome to our new Bible reading series. I'm Cindra Enlow from heavenlyplace.com, and this year, as we read through the Bible, we'll explore God's incredible story of love and redemption. If you're looking for a Bible reading plan that's simple and doable, this is it. So let's get started and discover the heart of God together, one chapter at a time. Hello, ladies, and welcome back to our one-year Bible reading plan. This is week 43, day 3, and our scheduled reading for today is Matthew 25 and 26, Mark 14, Luke 22, and John 13. So in today's reading, we see some of the most sacred and emotional moments in the life of Jesus. In Matthew 25, Jesus tells 3 parables that call us to be ready and faithful. The wise and the foolish virgins, the servants with the talents, and the sheep and the goats. Each one of these remind us that how we live and how we love matters. Then we move into Jesus' final hours before the cross in Matthew 26, Mark 14, and Luke 22. And we see Jesus is arrested. He shares the Last Supper with his disciples, first institutes communion, and then prays in deep anguish in the Garden of Gethsemane. Of course, this too is where Judas betrays him, and Peter insists that he'll never deny him, but Jesus gently tells him otherwise. And then in John 13, Jesus does something remarkable. He washes his disciples' feet, serving even Judas, the betrayer, and he tells them to follow his example, to love and to serve one another with humility. And he gives a new commandment to love one another as he has loved us. And you know, what a great picture as we look at Jesus knowing that Judas was going to betray him, he still served him. And, you know, it just kind of convicts me about how quickly I am to judge others. You know, maybe I'm not humble with them. But here's where we see the heart of God. We see that Jesus knows the cross is coming, but he still teaches and serves and prays and loves. He's betrayed, he's denied, he's abandoned. Yet he keeps his face set toward the Father's will. And his love is steady, humble, and sacrificial. And in that love, we find our example and our salvation. Okay, ladies, let's start our reading today with Matthew 25 and 26, Mark 14, Luke 22, and John 13.
The Good News according to Matthew. Chapter 25. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins, the friends of the bride, who took their lights, and went out with the purpose of meeting the husband. And 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. For the foolish, when they took their lights, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lights. Now the husband was a long time in coming, and they all went to sleep. But in the middle of the night there is a cry, "The husband comes. Go out to him." Then all those virgins got up, and made ready their lights. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us of your oil, for our lights are going out." But the wise made answer, saying, "There may not be enough for us and you. It would be better for you to go to the traders and get oil for yourselves." And while they went to get oil, the master came, and those who were ready went in with him to the feast, and the door was shut. After that the other virgins came, saying, "Lord, Lord, let us in." But he made answer and said, "Truly I say to you, I have no knowledge of you. Keep watch, then, because you are not certain of the day or of the hour. For it is as when a man, about to take a journey, got his servants together, and gave them his property. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to everyone as he was able, and he went on his journey. Straightway he who had been given the 5 talents went and did trade with them, and made 5 more. In the same way he who had been given the 2 got 2 more. But he who was given the 1 went away and put it in a hole in the earth, and kept his Lord's money in a secret place. Now after a long time the lord of those servants comes, and makes up his account with them. And he who had the 5 talents came with his other 5 talents, saying, Lord, you gave into my care 5 talents, see, I have got 5 more. His lord said to him, Well done, good and true servant, you have been true in a small thing, I will give you control over great things, take your part in the joy of your Lord. And he who had the 2 talents came and said, Lord, you gave into my care 2 talents, see, I have got 2 more. His lord said to him, Well done, good and true servant, you have been true in a small thing, I will give you control over great things, take your part in the joy of your Lord. And he who had the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I had knowledge that you are a hard man, getting in grain where you have not put seed, and making profits for which you have done no work, and I was in fear, and went away, and put your talent in the earth, here is what is yours. But his lord in answer said to him, You are a bad and unready servant, if you had knowledge that I get in grain where I did not put seed, and make profits for which I have done no work, why, then, did you not put my money in the bank, and at my coming I would have got back what is mine with interest? Take away, then, his talent and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will be given, and he will have more, but from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And put out the servant who is of no profit into the outer dark, there will be weeping and cries of sorrow. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then will he be seated in his glory, and before him all the nations will come together, and they will be parted one from another, as the sheep are parted from the goats by the keeper. And he will put the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. Then will the king say to those on his right, Come, you who have the blessing of my Father, into the kingdom made ready for you before the world was. For I was in need of food, and you gave it to me. I was in need of drink, and you gave it to me. I was wandering, and you took me in. I had no clothing, and you gave it to me. When I was ill, or in prison, you came to me. Then will the upright make answer to him, saying, Lord, when did we see you in need of food, and give it to you, or in need of drink, and give it to you? And when did we see you wandering, and take you in, or without clothing, and give it to you? And when did we see you ill, or in prison, and come to you? And the king will make answer and say to them, Truly I say to you, because you did it to the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. Then will he say to those on the left, Go from me, you cursed ones, into the eternal fire which is ready for the evil one and his angels. For I was in need of food, and you gave it not to me. I was in need of drink, and you gave it not to me. I was wandering, and you took me not in, without clothing, and you gave me no clothing, ill, and in prison, and you came not to me. Then will they make answer, saying, Lord, when did we see you in need of food or drink, or wandering, or without clothing, or ill, or in prison, and did not take care of you? Then will he make answer to them, saying, Truly I say to you, because you did it not to the least of these, you did it not to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the upright into eternal life. Chapter 26. And when Jesus had come to the end of all these words, he said to his disciples, After 2 days is the Passover, and the Son of Man will be given up to the death of the cross. Then the chief priests and the rulers of the people came together in the house of the high priest, who was named Caiaphas. And they made designs together to take Jesus by some trick, and put him to death. But they said, Not while the feast is going on, for fear of trouble among the people. Now when Jesus was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came to him a woman having a bottle of perfume of great price, and she put the perfume on his head when he was seated at table. But when the disciples saw it they were angry, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For we might have got much money for this and given it to the poor. But Jesus, seeing it, said to them, Why are you troubling the woman? She has done a kind act to me. For the poor you have ever with you, but me you have not forever. For in putting this perfume on my body, she did it to make me ready for my last resting place. Truly I say to you, wherever this good news goes out in all the world, what this woman has done will be talked of in memory of her. Then one of the 12, who was named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me, if I give him up to you?" And the price was fixed at 30 bits of silver. And from that time he was watching for a chance to give him into their hands. Now on the first day of unleavened bread the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Where are we to make ready for you to take the Passover meal?" And he said to them, "Go into the town to such a man, and say to him, 'The Master says, my time is near, I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" And the disciples did as Jesus had said to them, and they made ready the Passover. Now when evening was come, he was seated at table with the 12 disciples, and while they were taking food, he said, "Truly I say to you that one of you will be false to me." And they were very sad, and said to him, one by one, "Is it I, Lord?" And he made answer and said, "He who puts his hand into the plate with me, the same will be false to me. The Son of Man goes, even as the writings say of him, but a curse is on that man through whom the Son of Man is given up. It would have been well for that man if he had never come into the world." And Judas, who was false to him, made answer and said, "Is it I, Master?" He says to him, "Yes." And when they were taking food, Jesus took bread and, after blessing it, he gave the broken bread to the disciples and said, "Take it, this is my body." And he took a cup and, having given praise, he gave it to them, saying, "Take of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the testament, which is given for men for the forgiveness of sins. But I say to you that from now I will not take of this fruit of the vine, till that day when I take it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And after a song of praise to God, they went out to the mountain of Olives. Then said Jesus to them, "All of you will be turned away from me this night, for it is said in the writings, 'I will put to death the keeper of the sheep, and the sheep of the flock will be put to flight.' But after I am come back from the dead, I will go before you into Galilee." But Peter made answer and said to him, "Though all may be turned away from you, I will never be turned away." Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you that this night, before the hour of the cock's cry, you will say 3 times that you have no knowledge of me." Peter says to him, "Even if I am put to death with you, I will not be false to you." So said all the disciples. Then comes Jesus with them to a place named Gethsemane, and says to his disciples, "Be seated here, while I go over there for prayer." And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and became sad and very troubled. Then says he to them, "My soul is very sad, even to death, keep watch with me here." And he went forward a little, and falling down on his face in prayer, he said, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup go from me, but let not my pleasure, but yours be done." And he comes to the disciples, and sees that they are sleeping, and says to Peter, "What, were you not able to keep watch with me 1 hour? Keep watch with prayer, so that you may not be put to the test. The spirit truly is ready, but the flesh is feeble." Again, a second time he went away, and said in prayer, "O my Father, if this may not go from me without my taking it, let your pleasure be done." And he came again and saw them sleeping, for their eyes were tired. And he went away from them again, and a third time said the same prayer. Then he comes to the disciples, and says to them, "Go on sleeping now, and take your rest, for the hour is come, and the Son of Man is given into the hands of evil men. Up, let us be going, see, he who gives me up is near." And while he was still talking, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a band armed with swords and sticks, from the chief priests and those in authority over the people. Now the false one had given them a sign saying, "The one to whom I give a kiss, that is he, take him." And straightway he came to Jesus and said, "Master," and gave him a kiss. And Jesus said to him, "Friend, do that for which you have come." Then they came and put hands on Jesus, and took him. And one of those who were with Jesus put out his hand, and took out his sword and gave the servant of the high priest a blow, cutting off his ear. Then says Jesus to him, "Put up your sword again into its place, for all those who take the sword will come to death by the sword. Does it not seem possible to you that if I make request to my Father he will even now send me an army of angels? But how then would the writings come true, which say that so it has to be?" In that hour Jesus said to the people, "Have you come out as against a thief with swords and sticks to take me? I was teaching every day in the temple and you took me not. But all this has taken place so that the writings of the prophets might come true." Then all his disciples went from him in flight. And those who had made Jesus prisoner took him away to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and those in authority over the people had come together. But Peter went after him at a distance, to the house of the high priest, and went in and took his seat with the servants, to see the end. Now the chief priests and all the Sanhedrin were looking for false witness against Jesus, so that they might put him to death, and they were not able to get it, though a number of false witnesses came. But later there came two who said, "This man said, I am able to give the temple of God to destruction, and to put it up again in 3 days." And the high priest got up and said to him, "Have you no answer? What is it which these say against you?" But Jesus said not a word. And the high priest said to him, "I put you on oath, by the living God, that you will say to us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus says to him, "You say so, but I say to you, from now you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest, violently parting his robes, said, "He has said evil against God. What more need have we of witnesses? For now his words against God have come to your ears. What is your opinion?" They made answer and said, "It is right for him to be put to death." Then they put shame on him, and were cruel to him, and some gave him blows, saying, "Be a prophet, O Christ, and say who gave you a blow." Now Peter was seated in the open square outside the house, and a servant girl came to him, saying, "You were with Jesus the Galilean." But he said before them all that it was false, saying, "I have no knowledge of what you say." And when he had gone out into the doorway, another saw him and says to those who were there, "This man was with Jesus the Nazarene." And again he said with an oath, "I have no knowledge of the man." And after a little time those who were near came and said to Peter, "Truly you are one of them, because your talk is witness against you." Then with curses and oaths he said, "I have no knowledge of the man." And straightway there came the cry of a cock. And the word of Jesus came back to Peter, when he said, "Before the hour of the cock's cry, you will say 3 times that you have no knowledge of me." And he went out, weeping bitterly. The Good News according to Mark. Chapter 14. It was now 2 days before the feast of the Passover and the unleavened bread, and the chief priests and the scribes made designs how they might take him by deceit and put him to death. But they said, "Not while the feast is going on, for fear there may be trouble among the people." And while he was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, seated at table, there came a woman with a bottle of perfumed oil of great price, and when the bottle was broken she put the perfume on his head. But some of them were angry among themselves, saying, "For what purpose has this oil been wasted? We might have got more than 300 pence for it, and given the money to the poor." And they said things against her among themselves. But Jesus said, "Let her be. Why are you troubling her? She has done a kind act to me. The poor you have ever with you, and whenever you have the desire you may do them good, but me you have not forever. She has done what she was able. She has put oil on my body to make it ready for its last resting place. And truly I say to you, wherever the good news goes out through all the earth, what this woman has done will be talked of in memory of her." And Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went away to the chief priests, so that he might give him up to them. And hearing what he said, they were glad, and gave him their word to make him a payment of money. And he took thought how he might best give him up to them. And on the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is put to death, his disciples said to him, "Where are we to go and make ready for you to take the Passover meal?" And he sent 2 of his disciples, and said to them, "Go into the town, and there will come to you a man with a vessel of water. Go after him, and wherever he goes in, say to the owner of the house, 'The master says, where is my guest room, where I may take the Passover with my disciples?' And he will take you up himself to a great room with a table and seats. There make ready for us." And the disciples went out and came into the town, and saw that it was as he had said, and they made ready the Passover. And when it was evening he came with the 12. And while they were seated taking food, Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, one of you will be false to me, one who is taking food with me." They were sad, and said to him one by one, "Is it I?" And he said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who is putting his bread with me into the same plate. The Son of Man goes, even as the writings say of him, but cursed is that man through whom the Son of Man is given up. It would have been well for that man if he had never been given birth." And while they were taking food, he took bread, and after blessing it, he gave the broken bread to them, and said, "Take it, this is my body." And he took a cup, and when he had given praise, he gave it to them, and they all had a drink from it. And he said to them, "This is my blood of the testament, which is given for men. Truly I say to you, I will take no more of the fruit of the vine till the day when I take it new in the kingdom of God." And after a song of praise to God they went out to the mountain of Olives. And Jesus said to them, "You will all be turned away from me, for it is in the writings, I will put the keeper of the sheep to death, and the sheep will be put to flight. But after I have come back from the dead, I will go before you into Galilee." But Peter said to him, "Though the others may be turned away from you, I will not." And Jesus said to him, "Truly, I say to you that you, today, even this night, before the cock's second cry, will say 3 times that you have no knowledge of me." But he said with passion, "If I have to be put to death with you, I will not be false to you." And they all said the same. And they came to a place which was named Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Be seated here while I say a prayer." And he took with him Peter and James and John, and grief and great trouble came on him. And he said to them, "My soul is very sad, even to death. Be here a little time, and keep watch." And he went forward a little, and falling down on the earth, made request that, if possible, the hour might go from him. And he said, "Abba, Father, all things are possible to you, take away this cup from me, but even so let not my pleasure, but yours be done." And he came, and saw them sleeping, and said to Peter, "Simon, are you sleeping? Were you not able to keep watch 1 hour? Keep watch with prayer, so that you may not be put to the test. The spirit truly is ready, but the flesh is feeble." And again he went away, and said a prayer, using the same words. And again he came and saw them sleeping, because their eyes were very tired, and they had nothing to say in answer. And he came the 3rd time, and said to them, "Go on sleeping now and take your rest, it is enough. The hour has come, see, the Son of Man is given up into the hands of evil men. Get up, let us be going, see, he who gives me up is near." And straightway, while he was still talking, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great band with swords and sticks, from the chief priests and the scribes and those in authority. Now he who had been false to him had given them a sign, saying, "The one to whom I give a kiss, that is he, take him, and get him away safely." And when he had come, he went straight to him and said, "Master," and gave him a kiss. And they put their hands on him, and took him. But a certain one of those who were near took out his sword, and gave the servant of the high priest a blow, cutting off his ear. And Jesus said to them, "Have you come out as against a thief, with swords and sticks to take me? I was with you every day in the temple teaching, and you did not take me, but this is done so that the writings may come true." And they all went away from him in fear. And a certain young man went after him, with only a linen cloth about his body. And they put their hands on him, but he got away unclothed, without the linen cloth. And they took Jesus away to the high priest, and there came together with him all the chief priests and those in authority and the scribes. And Peter had come after him at a distance, even into the house of the high priest, and he was seated with the captains, warming himself in the light of the fire. Now the chief priests and all the Sanhedrin were looking for witness against Jesus so that they might put him to death, and they were unable to get any. For a number gave false witness against him and their witness was not in agreement. Then some got up and gave false witness against him, saying, "He said in our hearing, I will put an end to this temple which is made with hands, and in 3 days I will make another without hands." And even so their witness was not in agreement. And the high priest got up in the middle of them, and said to Jesus, "Do you say nothing in answer? "What is it which these say against you?" But he kept quiet and said nothing. Again the high priest, questioning him, said, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Holy One?" And Jesus said, "I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, and coming with the clouds of heaven." And the high priest, violently parting his robes, said, "What more need have we of witnesses? His words against God have come to your ears. What is your opinion?" And they all said it was right for him to be put to death. And some put shame on him and, covering his face, gave him blows and said to him, "Now say what is to come." And the captains took him and gave him blows with their hands. And while Peter was down in the open square of the building, one of the servant girls of the high priest came, and seeing Peter warming himself by the fire, she gave him a look, and said, "You are with this Nazarene, even Jesus." But he said, "I have no knowledge of him, or of what you are saying." And he went out into the doorway, and there came the cry of a cock. And the girl saw him, and said again to those who were near, "This is one of them." But again he said it was not so. And after a little time, again those who were near said to Peter, "Truly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." But, with curses and oaths, he said, "I have no knowledge of the man about whom you are talking." And in the same minute, the cock gave a second cry. And it came to Peter's mind how Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock's second cry, you will say 3 times that you have no knowledge of me." And at this thought he was overcome with weeping. The Good News according to Luke. Chapter 22. Now the feast of unleavened bread was near, which is called the Passover. And the chief priests and the scribes were looking for a chance to put him to death, but they went in fear of the people. And Satan came into Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12. And he went away and had a discussion with the chief priests and the rulers, about how he might give him up to them. And they were glad, and undertook to give him money. And he made an agreement with them to give him up to them, if he got a chance, when the people were not present. And the day of unleavened bread came, when the Passover lamb is put to death. And Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and make the Passover ready for us, so that we may take it." And they said to him, "Where are we to get it ready?" And he said to them, "When you go into the town you will see a man coming to you with a vessel of water. Go after him into the house into which he goes, and say to the master of the house, 'The master says, where is the guest room, where I may take the Passover with my disciples?' And he will take you up to a great room with a table and seats. There make ready." And they went, and it was as he had said, and they made the Passover ready. And when the time had come, he took his seat, and the apostles with him. And he said, "I have had a great desire to keep this Passover with you before I come to my death. For I say to you, I will not take it till it is made complete in the kingdom of God." And he took a cup and, having given praise, he said, "Make division of this among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not take of the fruit of the vine till the kingdom of God has come." And he took bread and, having given praise, he gave it to them when it had been broken, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in memory of me." And in the same way, after the meal, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the New Testament, made with my blood which is given for you. But the hand of him who is false to me is with me at the table. For it will be done to the Son of Man after the purpose of God, but unhappy is that man by whom he is given up." And they were wondering among themselves which of them it was who would do this thing. And there was an argument among them about which of them was the greatest. And he said, "The kings of the Gentiles are lords over them, and those who have authority are given names of honor. But let it not be so with you, but he who is greater, let him become like the younger, and he who is chief, like a servant. For which is greater, the guest who is seated at a meal or the servant who is waiting on him? Is it not the guest? But I am among you as a servant. But you are those who have kept with me through my troubles. And I will give you a kingdom as my Father has given one to me, so that you may take food and drink at my table in my kingdom, and be seated like kings, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Simon, Simon, Satan has made a request to have you, so that he may put you to the test as grain is tested, but I have made prayer for you, that your faith may not go from you, And when you are turned again, make your brothers strong." And he said to him, "Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death." And he said, "I say to you, Peter, before the cock's second cry today, you will say 3 times that you have no knowledge of me." And he said to them, "When I sent you out without money or bag or shoes, were you in need of anything?" And they said, "Nothing." And he said to them, "But now, he who has a money bag, or a bag for food, let him take it, and he who has not, let him give his coat for money and get a sword. For I say to you that these words will be put into effect in me." And he was numbered among the evildoers, for what has been said in the writings about me has an end. And they said, "Lord, here are 2 swords." And he said, "It is enough." And he came out, and went, as his way was, to the mountain of Olives, and the disciples went with him. And when he came to the place, he said to them, "Make a prayer that you may not be put to the test." And he went a little distance away from them and, falling on his knees in prayer, he said, "Father, if it is your pleasure, take this cup from me, but still, let your pleasure, not mine, be done." And an angel from heaven came to him, to give him strength. And being in great trouble of soul, the force of his prayer became stronger, and great drops, like blood, came from him, falling to the earth. And, getting up from prayer, he came to the disciples, and saw that they were sleeping for sorrow. And he said, "Why are you sleeping? Get up, and give yourselves to prayer, so that you may not be put to the test." And while he was saying these words, there came a band of people, and Judas, one of the 12, was in front of them, and he came near to Jesus to give him a kiss. But Jesus said to him, "Judas, will you be false to the Son of Man with a kiss?" And when those who were with him saw what was coming, they said, "Lord, may we not make use of our swords?" And one of them gave a blow to the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus, answering, said, "Put up with this, at least." And touching his ear, he made it well. And Jesus said to the chief priests and the captains of the temple and the rulers, who had come against him, "Have you come out as against a thief, with swords and sticks? When I was in the temple with you every day, your hands were not stretched out against me, but this is your hour, and the authority of the dark power." And they made him a prisoner and took him away to the house of the high priest. But Peter went after them at a distance. And a fire was lighted in the middle of the open square, and they were seated together, and Peter was among them. And a certain woman servant, seeing him in the light of the fire, and looking at him with attention, said, "This man was with him." But he said, "Woman, it is not true, I have no knowledge of him." And after a little time, another saw him and said, "You are one of them." And he said, "Man, I am not." And after about an hour, another man said, with decision, "Certainly this man was with him, for he is a Galilean." And Peter said, "Man, I have no knowledge of these things of which you are talking." And straightway, while he was saying these words, there came the cry of a cock. And the Lord, turning, gave Peter a look, and the words of the law came to Peter's mind, how he had said, "This night, before the hour of the cock's cry, you will be false to me 3 times." And he went out, weeping bitterly. And the men in whose hands Jesus was, made sport of him and gave him blows. And, covering his eyes, they said to him, "Are you prophet enough to say who gave you that blow?" And they said a number of other evil things against him. And when it was day, the rulers of the people came together, with the chief priests and the scribes, and they took him before their Sanhedrin, saying, "If you are the Christ, say so." But he said, "If I say so you will not have belief, and if I put a question to you, you will not give an answer. But in the future the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." And they all said, "Are you then the Son of God?" And he said, "You say that I am." And they said, "What more need have we of witness? We have the very words of his mouth." The Good News according to John. Chapter 13. Now before the feast of the Passover, it was clear to Jesus that the time had come for him to go away from this world to the Father. Having once had love for those in the world who were his love for them went on to the end. So while a meal was going on, the evil one having now put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to be false to him. Jesus, being conscious that the Father had put everything into his hands, and that he came from God and was going to God, got up from table, put off his robe and took a cloth and put it round him. Then he put water into a basin and was washing the feet of the disciples and drying them with the cloth which was round him. So he came to Simon Peter. Peter said, Lord, are my feet to be washed by you? And Jesus, answering, said to him, What I do is not clear to you now, but it will be clear to you in time to come. Peter said, I will never let my feet be washed by you. Never. Jesus said in answer, If I do not make you clean, you have no part with me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet only, but my hands and my head. Jesus said to him, He who is bathed has need only to have his feet washed, and then he is clean all over. And you, my disciples, are clean, but not all of you. He acknowledged who was false to him. That is why he said, You are not all clean. Then, after washing their feet and putting on his robe again, he took his seat and said to them, Do you see what I have done to you? You give me the name of Master and Lord, and you are right, that is what I am. If then I, the Lord and the Master, have made your feet clean, it is right for you to make one another's feet clean. I have given you an example, so that you may do what I have done to you. Truly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his Lord, and he who is sent is not greater than the one who sent him. If these things are clear to you, happy are you if you do them. I am not talking of you all. I have knowledge of my true disciples, but things are as they are, so that the writings may come true. The foot of him who takes bread with me is lifted up against me. From this time forward, I give you knowledge of things before they come about, so that when they come about you may have belief that I am he. Truly I say to you, he who takes to his heart anyone whom I send, takes me to his heart, and he who so takes me, takes him who sent me. When Jesus had said this, he was troubled in spirit, and gave witness, saying, Truly I say to you, that one of you will be false to me. Then the eyes of the disciples were turned on one another, in doubt as to whom he had in mind. There was at table one of his disciples, the one dear to Jesus, resting his head on Jesus' breast. Making a sign to him, Simon Peter said, Who is it he is talking about? He, then, resting his head on Jesus' breast, said to him, Lord, who is it? This was the answer Jesus gave, It is the one to whom I will give this bit of bread after I have put it in the vessel. Then he took the bit of bread, put it into the vessel, and gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. And when Judas took the bread, Satan went into him. Then Jesus said to him, Do quickly what you have to do. Now it was not clear to anyone at table why he said this to him. Some were of the opinion that because Judas kept the money bag, Jesus said to him, Get the things we have need of for the feast, or that he was to give something to the poor. So Judas, having taken the bit of bread, straightway went out, and it was night. Then when he had gone out, Jesus said, Now is glory given to the Son of Man, and God is given glory in him. If God is given glory in him, God will give him glory in himself, and will give him glory even now. My dear children, I am only to be with you a little longer. Then you will be looking for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going you may not come. I give you a new law, have love one for another, even as I have had love for you, so are you to have love one for another. By this it will be clear to all men that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? Jesus said in answer, Where I am going you may not come with me now, but you will come later. Peter said to him, Why may I not come with you even now? I will give up my life for you. Jesus said in answer, Will you give up your life for me? Truly I say to you, before the cry of the cock you will have said 3 times that you are not my disciple.